in L&D, sometimes you'll deliver somebody, you got to get them upstairs, and then somebody else is rolling in labor. When do you get to sit down and finish charting for that patient that's flying away now to postpartum? You don't have time to do it. And they're like, where's their prenatal records? Where's the, and you're like, I don't know. The bitch just came in and pushed out a baby on the bed. I don't know. Like, I don't even know her name. I mean, seriously.
Oh, I gotta go. I've been working, told them please don't hit my phone. I'm in my zone, bruh, just leave me alone. Was on the road, but I swear I'm coming home. Now the drinks on me, I think we need a toast. See, I did it for me. Now my old friends calling, told them nothing's for free. Told me time is money, dog, swear I paid all my fees. I was starving for this game, now my family can eat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Cup of Nurses show with your hosts, Peter and Matt here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving for those that are listening around this time. We really appreciate everyone that comes into the show numerously, day in, day out, listens to us. We appreciate the downloads. This is what motivates us and keeps on helping us produce this high quality content. Some housekeeping for any show notes, anything related, announcements, cupofnurses.com there. We have some cool vlogs that are coming out as far as with travel nursing and everything that we're doing day to day. Some nursing debriefments talking about our day to day of how nursing is, so check those out. And for our conscious movement, we are frontlinewarriors.com. Read up on some blog posts, and we're going to have some new things coming out there. And don't forget, we keep on working on this awesome travel app that's coming out soon, pronto. Stay tuned for that. Announcements are coming soon. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing amazing, man. So today we have a very special guest. Her name is Jessica Seitz. Jessica Seitz is a labor and delivery nurse for the last 20 years. She's also a social media personality, as well as a big advocate and a voice for the whole nursing community. So on this episode, we talk about kind of the ways management has impacted nursing and how healthcare has changed over the years.
Her personality dives in great into everything and explains the reality of how nursing is with management. So Let's begin.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much for being here. Can you give us a little bit about your nursing background? Why did you become a nurse, and what kind of nursing did you do?
Okay, sure. That's actually a kind of a funny question. So I became a nurse because I had to pick something. When I was in when I was in college, you start getting to that point at the end of your freshman year, and I'm like, I didn't know what I want. I mean, what I really wanted to be was like an actress or like on a soap opera or something. I mean, like that would have been my ultimate goal. But that stuff didn't pan out. So basically, I was just like, let me pick something that I know is like. I'm always going to have a job, that it's like something that's reliable. So I was like, okay, I'll go into nursing. Nursing sounds good. I'll pick that. So I don't have like some really great, like heartfelt story as to why I picked nursing. It just kind of fell into it. And went to USF, which is in Tampa, and got my BSN right away. A lot of people didn't do that, but back then I didn't. This was a long time ago, people. I'm older here. I graduated in 2000 with my BSN, and that's just the way that my college had it structured. So I just went straight through, and it was a 4-year program. I got my BSN, and during my clinical rotations, most of them I was mortified. Like I was, I'm like, this is disgusting. Like, I remember my first rotation was a respiratory floor, and I just remember all the trachs and the suctioning and the mucus, and I was like, oh my God, I picked something wrong. This is not for me. Like I literally had a moment of panic, like, and I think a lot of nursing students go through that. And it just so happened that my first rotation was something that I obviously, I could not see myself as a ICU or like respiratory type floor nurse. But it did get better. And eventually I remember going into my OB rotation. And I fell in love with it so much immediately the first day that I didn't actually see a delivery. Like I was following the nurse and the mom in labor. And by the time our day was over where we were supposed to leave, my patient was like 8 centimeters. And the nurse that was so amazing, I remember her, Christy, she turns to me and she says, if your instructor's okay and you want to stay, like you can stay later till she delivers. And I was like, yeah, like for the first time, like I really wanted to be in it, like doing something. I didn't care that I wasn't making money or I wasn't on the clock. I wanted to see it. Like I already had bonded with the mom, and um, back then I was like, oh, she's 8 centimeters. She'll deliver in like an hour. No, I was there like an additional 5 hours.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, before she actually got to complete and pushed and delivered her baby. But I was so moved. It moved me to tears, and I knew in that moment that was what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be. So I did, at the very end of my last year in nursing school. They sign you up in a preceptorship, and my first choice was labor and delivery, and I actually got my first pick, which was that same hospital that I had done my rotation at, and they let me do my preceptorship there in nursing school. And usually you don't get hired in L&D right away. Like it's because it's such it's a big learning curve. Like you've got to go through like 6 to 8 months of training and learning with somebody else. And they just so happened that they were doing that particular time. It just kind of all coincided that they were doing a preceptorship and they were allowing new grads. And I got day shift. Like that was unheard of. So it was like it was all meant to be. It all kind of fell in line. And I started there and stayed at the same hospital 21 years, and just left bedside nursing recently. So that's a whole nother story. But so that's it. L&D all the way.
Yeah, for sure. Matt actually got floated to L&D a couple of days ago because we're traveling here in Austin, and they had like a low census in the ICU, so they floated us. I got floated to a postpartum, and then Matt got floated to labor and delivery.
I'm not gonna lie, being an ICU nurse and then going into L&D is completely different. Even looking at the monitors, you don't see like normal sinus rhythm and just an ECG. You see like contractions and the fetal heart rate. And I'm looking at this and something's dipping. I'm trying to interpret it. So it's very fascinating what L&D does. And it's almost like a ICU setting in a different way. It's like it's high acuity in a different sense. And I was shocked. And I see my first live birth, by the way, in the ICU. I don't cringe on things, but when I seen that baby coming out, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's something you'll never forget. That's for sure. Like, and then it's either something you would love to do or you'd hate it. Like that's how people are with L&D. Like they're either like, oh God, how does that come out of there?
Right, it's like an alien, you know?
But I loved it, and I loved the kind of an adrenaline junkie, and I loved the how quickly and fast paced things can change, not necessarily for bad versus good, which obviously it can go bad, but just anticipating how the labor is going to go. And it's just kind of one of those things you just kind of fall in love with. And learning that you're not just taking care of the mom, you're taking care of another patient at the same time, which is the baby. I mean, the mom can be fine and the baby could be in distress, so it's trying to incorporate all of those different things. But yeah, I loved it for a long time until I didn't.
So I was doing task nursing when I was there. So I was just helping out. But what is your day to day as like a labor and delivery nurse?
Like how does the day flow, you mean? Like what are you? Okay. So typically you go in, you get, your assignment, and it's usually a 2 patient max. Like that's it. That's your load, which would be like 2 laboring patients, which in and of itself is very challenging. The hospital that I worked at is the second busiest hospital in Florida. So it was not like a low census type unit. I mean, it was very typical that we were full with 21 laboring patients all at the same time, plus running the OR with C-sections and all of that simultaneously, which, we're in charge of being in there because being there to take care of the baby when the baby's delivered. So typically you'd get 2. But it's just trying to manage, like the only way I can explain it is it's very difficult to go from, you've got one mom that's like in labor and high acuity, and you have to be one-on-one for a lot of the things that you do with these patients, like them getting their epidural or when it's time to start pushing, or and then you're trying to also navigate and make sure you're taking care of your other patient at the same time. And then oftentimes, the floor is just so busy that there's not really anybody to watch your other patient when you're trying to take care of this other one-on-one, and you're ultimately responsible for making sure that this other patient's tracing doesn't go bad, or that something bad doesn't happen to the baby, or the mom doesn't need you for something. So I think in the future, I think the standards, they're trying to change the standards that, especially if a mom is on Pitocin, which if you don't know what Pitocin is, but that's, where they basically augment or induce the contractions with the synthetic hormone of oxytocin.
Is that common? Like, is that like
Very common,
Yeah.
very common, for two reasons. One, a lot of women like to schedule their date. Like, they don't want to wait until it just happens. Like, so oftentimes once a mom's 39 weeks plus, a mom will just say, hey, if I'm favorable, I'd like to be induced, but second being, a lot of times they come in labor, and the doctor wants to speed it up, because they don't want to be there all day. So that's what you call an augmentation. So oftentimes the doc will just be like, add some Pitocin to kind of get things a little more regular. So I would say more times than not, at least at the facility where I was, it would be rare, like, for somebody to not be on Pitocin. And then of course I don't want to just say we do labor patients. We also get patients that come in that are preeclamptic, that their blood pressures are through the roof. So basically anything that is, so we do have some ICU types of things, like critical types of things, where you're managing drips of magnesium sulfate to try to make sure that they don't end up seizing. So we cover a variety of things: preterm labor. The list goes on and on. So basically, if you're pregnant, you're coming to us, even though it's labor and delivery. A lot of times we have patients that are just pregnant that we're managing complications as well. So it kind of depends. Some days you'll get a 2-patient load of labors. Some days you'll get, they assign you what we call high risk type of pregnant moms. I hope I'm explaining that okay. But typical day, you don't get a lunch break. If you're lucky, if you do. And then if you do inhale some food, they're calling you to come out because your patient just went complete, and so it's one of those. I'm sure a lot of other floors are like that too. But it's kind of a crazy unit.
Yeah, it's intense. 'Cause I remember from clinical, when I was doing labor and delivery for one of my rotations. First of all, it made me very thankful for being a guy, because I did some live births, and I was just happy to be a male during that time. And like, what are the biggest like difficulties? Like you said, it was like the preeclampsia. Have you had like patient that went into like full blown like eclampsia? Is that something that's
yes.
common? Is it? And
Yeah.
how scary was that?
Very scary. I've had patients roll in from EMS that are full blown seizing, and when that happens, obviously the baby becomes oxygen deprived because the mom is not breathing like she normally would, and it's a pretty critical situation. Like you got to make a decision and see what the baby's heart rate is doing at that time, and decide whether do we need to proceed to like emergently deliver this woman, or do we have time to try to get her seizing to stop and get things under control. But yeah, I've seen that many times, and it is scary. It's very scary because when it goes bad, it goes really bad. And not only that, they can go into their body, like it almost like starts shutting down when they get severely preeclamptic or eclamptic. Their platelets drop, and when I mean drop, they're not coagulating at all. Their liver enzymes go through the roof. Some patients even go into DIC, where they just start oozing blood from anywhere. So when it does go bad, it can go really bad, unfortunately. Seen that way too many times. So docs try to catch it early. That's why they monitor their pressures, and we're always asking them for signs and symptoms, headaches and stuff like that. But sometimes, people are just at home and they have no idea that they have it, and they just start not feeling good, and
Crazy.
call 911, and then that's what happens, and then they roll in like that. But oftentimes it's like playing a game, because when a lot of moms do develop this, they're still preterm. Like a lot of them are 28 to 32 weeks gestation. So ideally, you don't want to deliver the baby, because that is the ultimate cure for preeclampsia, is to get the baby out. They think that it has something to do with maybe the way the placenta adhered for some fluke reason during that pregnancy, that it causes your pressures to go up. But in all honesty, preeclampsia is not understood that well as to why it just happens in some people and not in others. But it's just definitely something that it's like, okay, if we can get, a few more weeks out of this mom and get the baby, their lungs to mature a little bit more, that would be great. But sometimes you just can't, and you just got to kind of roll with it. And, we got to keep the mom safe too. So,
How is a scenario with like postpartum hemorrhage? I know when I was looking on the crash cart at L&D, I noticed there's a protocol that you guys have, and it's just giving Cairo and platelets. And you reassess, you draw labs, it's still bad, another 3 bags. And it's just like a protocol like that, up to like 9. I noticed it just keeps on going.
yeah, postpartum hemorrhage can be scary. Usually when it does start happening, luckily we can kind of catch it and, do some things to, um, get the blood vessels to clamp down. We can give different medications. There's hemabate, there's cytotec, like there's different things that we can give. A lot of times, a big bolus of Pitocin will actually make the uterus clamp down. Normally we give it in small drips when we're trying to get the uterus to contract, but after delivery, usually most moms get a bolus of Pit, but it can help to just like quickly get that bleeding to slow down. Vigorous massaging of the uterus. But oftentimes, sometimes we cannot get it under control. Sometimes there can be fragments kind of left over in the uterus that the doctor wasn't aware of, like something from the placenta or the bag is kind of in the uterus and they can't get it out, whether it's kind of adhered in there. So the uterus isn't able to do what it's supposed to do and clamp down the right way. So bleeding will just occur. So a lot of times, they'll rush them to do a DNC and see if they can figure out why this bleeding is occurring. But sometimes they just can't get it to stop. And that's when it's really scary. Unfortunately, I've seen in my experience, I've only seen a couple moms that have actually lost their life from postpartum hemorrhage, but it can definitely happen. I mean, it's just sometimes no matter what, you just can't. And then those moms start to go into DIC too, and you're just playing a game trying to keep up. You're pushing in blood and platelets and all this other kind of stuff, but sometimes it's just coming out faster, unfortunately, than we can keep up with it. And those are the ones that really stick with you. You've got this beautiful new baby that's born, and usually this dad or, family around, and it's this happy moment. And then all of a sudden, usually the mom's like, I don't feel right, and it starts going quickly. So that's scary. But yeah, we definitely have a big protocol. You measure the amount of the EBL, you measure like the Chuck's pads, you measure everything to figure out like exactly how much blood loss they had. Because, it's not like it's just pouring into a cup or something, it's unfortunately, it's kind of going everywhere. Yeah, I don't like those.
Yeah, I bet. That's wild. Yeah, that's crazy. How are like the personalities on the unit? Because like when you compare it to the ICU, you have a little bit more males in the ICU. Everyone's a little bit more stern. Everyone's very knowledgeable. How are nurses like in labor and delivery? Because we don't have that experience. Are they more chatty? Because I was at postpartum and I was in the nursery, and it's very not politics going on, but everyone's like chatting. Like, there's a lot of tea being spilled. Yeah, a lot of tea, a lot of gossiping.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatting. There's a lot of bitchiness, cattiness, people talking behind each other. It's usually predominantly female. So you get, I don't want to be sexist here, but you get a bunch of females together. Okay. And, we all have a good time, but then everybody starts to get on each other's nerves. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just, somebody will feel like somebody else isn't doing enough, or they're lazy and you call out for help and they won't get up and help. And, it's one thing after another. I would say there's all different sorts of personalities. You've got some nurses that kind of keep to themselves. You've got your jokesters like me that won't shut up and is, talking the whole time and trying to entertain people or entertain myself. Cause that's how I made it through my days working 12-hour shifts in L&D was, just doing anything goofy that I could to laugh. Yeah, you definitely, you've got your personalities, but I would say overall, it's always chatting. There's talking at the nurse's station, but yes, spilling the tea. That's always going on. That's for sure.
What was like the most difficult part you could say about labor and delivery, or what part did you struggle with the most, or even something that kind of put you off?
Administration.
Always.
Yeah. It really, administration and management. I wouldn't say, I think labor and delivery in itself, I love it. But I feel like things have changed dramatically in nursing in the last, I mean, I want to say over the last like 7, 8 years. I mean, it's just progressively gotten worse. And what I mean by that is, and you guys may understand this, but I just feel like the focus, as much as administration and things are saying it's all about patient care and taking care of patients, I feel like the focus has been pulled away from the patients, and it's more towards legality and charting and more policies and procedures, which I'm not trying to say that those are bad things, but um, I just remember back in the day when you could do your job and like you took care of your patients and everything flowed and you did your thing, you know. And then it's like I mean, when I started out, we were paper charting. I mean, this is a long time ago. You know, you had your clipboard and you did your checkoffs and you did your thing, and you know. And then while technology is great, it is. I mean, obviously we are able now to pull up anybody's chart and everything flows and you can see where they've been in the hospital and their labs and everything are there. Um, it does gradually take a toll when they add on more and more and more and more. And then you find yourself, you've got a patient that's in pain and is laboring, and you feel like you have your back to them almost the whole time, because if you don't chart everything that they want you to chart, you're going to get in trouble because they're auditing you. And you know, you've got to check off everything, and your admission database, it started out small and then it gets longer and it gets longer and they add on something else. And it's just the amount that they want you to do added on to just trying to be there for your patient. It's sad. It's like it's taken away. It's taken away from being able to just connect with your patient. And I feel, I don't know what has happened. It's just like I used to be able to giggle and laugh at the nurse's station. It's funny that you mentioned that. Like, if we did have a minute in downtime, that was okay. Now it's like, shh, you know, like it's always somebody micromanaging or hovering, or like it's just, you know, as stressful as our jobs are, it's like, leave us alone a little bit, you know, like who cares if we're sipping a Diet Coke while we're charting, or, you know, it's just over the top. I mean, it's the level of things that, and I'm sure in ICU or wherever, you know, you guys have worked, I'm sure that you can relate to that. But it gets to be where that's where I lost my luster for bedside nursing, is just, and then you go and complain. I remember this was many years back. I went to say, hey, nurses aren't happy. Like, you know, I'm vocal, obviously. I talk a lot. Look, you guys haven't said anything this whole interview. I'm just, but
You are the guest.
I went to the manager and I said, hey, I'm telling you, these girls here, we are not happy. You're going to start losing people. Like, it's it's weighing on us. Like, everybody is venting and complaining. And I was looked dead in the face and I was told, there's a million other people that would take your job in a minute. If you don't like it here, if you're not happy here, um, maybe you're outgrown this. Maybe, you know, you need to try something else, something different. Instead of saying, what are we doing wrong? Why is everybody so unhappy? What can we do to make it better? It was just like, and there were at the time, there was a million nurses wanting to come in and be an L&D nurse, you know, but it was just like that lack of care, that lack of caring about your nurses. And it just turned into like, they wanted us to be these robots, like a robotic, just perfect being, like that's infallible, you know. And you throw on more and more and more things on a nurse and computers and, you know, all these different things, people are going to make mistakes. I mean, it's impossible not to, you know. I've said we've turned into like Target, like we're booping, everything's a boop, you know, like boop and scan the bracelet, scan the bag, scan the meds, like, and half the time the scanner doesn't work. It's just like, it's, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, can I see your bracelet again? Excuse me. You guys know what I'm talking about, you know?
And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're trying to, position a patient's wrist so you can scan the wristband, and it keeps beeping. Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Or you're leaning over them to scan the bag of fluids, or it's just And I don't know if you guys have this, but you have to scan the pumps now too. Like, so now you scan the pump so that the computer can program the pump. Yeah. So it's like you got to scan the patient, scan the med, scan the bag, make sure that it all lined up and that it worked, and then run back to the computer to check the computer to make sure that you scanned it and it actually populates into the computer. Where are you looking at the patient anymore? Where? You're not. It's awful. It's really, really.
Yeah, that's true because like majority of nurses that leave to do travel nursing, one of the main reasons why they leave is the management side. And like you're right, like at nursing and as healthcare, we've kind of shifted away from, you could say, patient-centered care. Because if you look at the nurses that are staying overtime, it's not because they had a bunch of patient care to do. It's because they have to stay here because they got to chart all the stuff that they just did. And nurses are staying overtime for an hour and a half just because the charting, it just takes that long. And so it just takes that much effort. So you're kind of decreasing the amount of time you spend with the patient and increasing the amount of time you're spending charting. And when management comes by, they don't say, hey, do you need help turning? Do you need help with this, with that? They tell you, hey, make sure you chart on this, make sure you chart on that. Like you're losing that personal aspect of nursing and focusing more of the electronic base, because if it's not charted, it's not done.
Even as nurses, I'm sure when you graduated school, it's all about holistic care. It's not only about the body, it's all the mental and spiritual. How do you have time to assess a patient's spiritual needs, or maybe sit down and talk to them to see mentally what they're going through?
If they want to just talk.
Yeah, you can't do any of that. We have no time to talk with you. We got shit to do and to chart, which is so sad because I feel like it creates more suffering for the nurse, because not only, just like you said, our backs are turned, we have to worry about management. Now the patient is also unsatisfied. You also have doctors that are unsatisfied and crabby, and it's like we're just taking the load of healthcare, and people don't see it like that.
And if you have an unsatisfied patient, you get low scores. So who do they blame? Nurses. So now, how do we get those scores up? Well, guess what? We'll add an extra step into doing this now. So guess what? Now you gotta chart that. Hey, did you ask the patient this? Did you ask the patient that? And instead of wholeheartedly asking the patient, hey, are you okay? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling depressed? Now it's like a requirement that we gotta check off, and it just sounds robotic, and you lose that personal aspect of it, because you're doing it because you have to do it, because it's in the system and we got to put it in the system. And it's always like that. Like every time at my old hospital in Illinois, when we got like bad satisfaction survey scores, it was always like, hey, what could we create for these nurses to boost these scores? And they usually added like another thing to chart, or they added some kind of a paperwork to do, and it was never like really focused on the patient. It's more of like, what could we add to the nurses' task list so they could do certain things, which was always like so weird. Instead of like telling nurses, hey, let's try to ask these patients how they're feeling so we could kind of bond with them a little bit more. They said, hey, you gotta fill out this form instead, which was totally kind of like backwards.
Because it's about the money. It boils down to the money. And the higher ups, a lot of their salaries based on bonuses, and meeting numbers and meeting quotas. So no, they don't care if the patient and you get to sit down and talk. That they're not worried about that. That's not their ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is whatever they have to do to get that number to where it needs to be. That's their focus there. And turnover quickly. Get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out, get somebody else in the bed. Let's go. Because it's like dollar. And that's the other thing. Charting has become not just from legality, but it's for gaining money. I mean, how many times now do you have to chart on yes, you've applied this monitor. Yes, you got to go to your task list and make sure that, back in the task list, what kind of shit is that? Back in the day, we didn't have no damn task list. It was just, you did your thing and the unit secretary put in the charges, I'm like, whatever happened to that? Now I got to do charges too. And I've got to go in and figure out and make sure that I've checked this off or checked that off. And it's just like over the top. And, like you were saying earlier, a nurse may have to stay after her shift to chart. Well, in L&D, sometimes you'll deliver somebody, you got to get them upstairs, and then somebody else is rolling in labor. When do you get to sit down and finish charting for that patient that's flying away now to postpartum, and then the postpartum nurse is pissed off and she's calling because you didn't finish your admission database and all this, and you don't have time to do it. And they're like, where's their prenatal records? Where's it? When you're like, I don't know. The bitch just came in and pushed out a baby on the bed. I don't know. Like, I don't even know her name. I mean, seriously, it's just there's everybody's frustrated and everybody's mad at everybody, and it's freaking ridiculous. It's just out of control.
Yeah, it is. It is, and like management doesn't help. Like it's always like, yeah, management never understands. Even we have a travel nurse with us that's working with us. She used to work in management and she left it just because when she was a nurse, like she understood nursing, and then when she went to management, she got into all this politics. She realized how management actually works, and she left management and went back to nursing because she wasn't feeling fulfilled, or she wasn't liking the way that it's structured and the way it works. And it's a sad time. And you mentioned turnover rate, like that's crazy that your manager said that, hey, there's a million other nurses like you that want this job.
I will tell you that statement crushed me. It literally crushed my soul. Like I had already been there 15 years, I think, when I heard that statement and she was a newer manager, but it literally, I was not the same person that I used to be. I was not my vibrant, joking self. I wasn't engaging with the other nurses like I had before. I almost felt like
Disposable.
defeated. Like disposable, a number. I didn't feel like anybody had my back. And I remember day after day, I was quieter. I'm like, I'm just going to do my job. I'm just here. I'm just going to do my job, make my money, make sure I, do all the shit that they want. Oh, on top of that, they were writing people up left and right for dumb crap. Like, you clocked in a minute late, and you have 8 tardies. One hasn't dropped off yet. Not to mention at the time my mother was dying of ovarian cancer. Okay, so there's lack of empathy or caring anymore. That's what I'm saying. It's all just about numbers and checking things off. Nobody cared. I used to, back in the day, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I felt like shit this morning. I'm sorry I'm 5 minutes late, and it was like, and nobody cared. As long as you were there and you were doing your thing, it was fine. And it's turned into this whole nitpicky, like the more times we can write up a nurse, the better. It's almost like, are they getting bonuses for that? Like, are they making money off of making sure that all of their write-ups are done? That, you know what I mean? So I turned into this different person, and I didn't like it anymore. So after about a year or so, a position opened up in like an outpatient testing department where you were just seeing moms that came in for NSTs, which are just non-stress tests. Like, so the mom would just like need a 30-minute non-stress test during, her pregnancy to make sure that the baby was okay. You did vitals. And I ended up transferring to that. And I liked it because I was alone. I was in my own little room, my own little office. I didn't have management breathing down my throat all the time because nobody paid attention. I did my own thing. It was just outpatient stuff. And I did that for like the next 5 or 6 years until I started doing what my passion was, which is social media and creating videos. And then in the end, I was financially doing better on social media and giving nursing funny content to nurses, which is what I've always wanted to do, is make people laugh. So I finally got to a point that I was just like, why am I staying in this? Like, what am I gaining from this anymore? I'm not happy with it. L&D was what I loved. I loved that adrenaline rush, and I felt like I'd been pushed into an office-y kind of position just because to get away from management that had defeated me. And it made me sad. But I will say that I feel, ever since I did leave bedside nursing, I feel a huge relief. Like, I don't feel that overwhelming stress and doom and gloom anymore. And that's kind of freeing.
And that's great. And it's great because I feel like that's like with a lot of nurses, they think that, hey, they got their bachelor's in nursing, now they're going to be a nurse for the rest of their life. And that's not like the mindset that people should have. Like, if you got a nursing degree, it doesn't matter that you got it, and you don't have to be there forever. You could leave bedside, you could go outpatient, you could leave outpatient, you could leave nursing in general, and you could pursue other things, because all that knowledge that you've gained as a nurse through nursing school, through experiences, like that applies to daily life, to everyday life. Like, you have a lot more knowledge than a typical person. And you could basically take that experience and knowledge as a nurse and apply it to anything that you want to do. Same way what you did, you left bedside and you became the person that you are today.
Yeah. And I feel like, I'm still a nurse. I mean, obviously, I'm still an RN, and I'm very transparent online and social media. I've told people my story. I've told them about leaving bedside nursing. So when I've continued to post, funny content for nurses to de-stress and laugh about stuff, and what I will say now, the nice part about this now is that now I don't have to toe the line so much. When I still had my job in the hospital and I was doing social media, you always worry about that backlash. Like, are you going to somehow slip up and say something as to where you work, or are you going to make fun of administration in a way that then you could get in trouble at your job? And I felt like once I finally left, that I could actually expose nursing for what it is right now and what is actually going on. And I feel like that, if anything, is such an added benefit, because how scared nurses are to post things. And some of them do it and get in big trouble and either fired or, written up or in big trouble. And I feel like I'm at least allowed to speak exactly about what's going on and not have to worry about somebody saying there's a social media policy or me getting in trouble. But I do occasionally have those trolls. There's always those trolls on social media that will say, well, you're not a nurse anymore. Like, because and I'm like, no, last time I checked, I still am. I actually am. I still have a license. I still keep up with my CEUs, but I think a lot of people there's always that little group of jealous or just mean people that, they see that you're doing something different and you're enjoying it, and they feel like they just have to make their dig. Like, how can you relate anymore when you're sitting in your house, or and all I can say to that is I try to brush those things off, and I try to tell them, I respond the best way I can, and I say, listen, if 21 years of doing bedside nursing isn't enough for me to make jokes and to help you guys laugh and have an understanding of the hell that everybody is going through, then I don't know what is. What is 25, 30 years? Would that be good? It's like, what do they need? But I'm sure you guys know that. There's always somebody that's going to have a negative comment. But I would say for the most part, 98% of people are amazing,
It's just jealousy because
they're great.
yeah, because they see the way that you took control of their life and they can't seem to figure out how to do that for themselves. So the best for them to do is put somebody down, instead of like looking up to you and trying to figure out, hey, how did you become the person you are? How are you able to do that and not do bedside? Instead of asking you those questions, they give you nasty comments because they want to be where you are. They just can't be there.
They're trapped. Yeah. And I get that. A lot of people do. I felt that way for a very long time until I just slowly started trying and figuring things out. I was just, it's not like I knew how to do this when I started it. I mean, I would like beat my head against a wall some days trying to figure out Facebook, social media, like, and how to actually get people to follow you on a page. Like, it's hard. It was hard work. And who do you ask those questions to? It's not like, somebody else that's doing this. Like, it was just all learning and trying to figure it out myself. And it was a long road. This has been 3 years now that I've been at it, so it's not like it just happened overnight, but not even, there's lots of things nurses can do. Some people are doing like foot and nail assessments, like on their patients that are diabetics. They're doing their own travel type little things. There's people going into legal nursing. Like, there's a lot of different options besides bedside nursing,
Yeah, going through nursing, I think one of the key things that it gives us as people is we just figure shit out. Like, you're able to figure shit out with the social media. Other nurses figure shit out because as nurses, our jobs is we get presented a patient with symptoms and signs, and we gotta figure shit out. Like
with broken equipment sometimes.
Like what's going on? Okay, they're hypotensive and tachycardic. Like, what's going on? Maybe they're bleeding. We gotta figure this shit out, and that's applicable to everything in life, and that's
Creates
why
resilience.
Yep, creates resilience. And that's why nurses, they're very good entrepreneurs. They're very good at doing other things because they're just good at figuring shit out. It's the way you figured out Facebook, you didn't go to school for it. You didn't take a class. You just did it and you figured it out. But when you were talking about the story about nurses are kind of scared to post certain things because they're kind of worried about what people are going to think. What management is going to say. It's actually funny that you brought that up, is because Matt and I, when we were working in a Santa Monica, we would like to mess around on Unit 2 because it was It was we were nights there, and it was kind of lax, and we like to make people laugh as well, the same way you did. So this one story is that Matt's eyes were dry, so we usually carry eye drops to work, to prevent because we wear contacts, and I sent him through a tube station eye drops taped to a pure wick. Like the female external catheter, as like a joke.
It's funny. I laughed. I posted it up.
Just so everyone thought it was funny. Yeah, everyone laughed, and then I guess somebody on day shift, and he posted on Instagram as like a story just to lighten the mood. And then somebody like on days or some other shift
Just
got a
wasn't
hold of
having it.
Yeah, just wasn't having it. Recorded it, showed it to the manager, like, hey, these guys are messing around on nights. This is what they're doing. And then we got a phone call from the manager saying that, hey, if it wasn't a pandemic, we'd fire you guys for something like this. And
Yeah,
it's
see, God forbid you have fun. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. You can't have fun anymore.
Right, and it's
They've taken fun away from nurses. And
Right.
I mean, to work a job, most people it's stressful. If you can't laugh and cut up a little bit while you're there, how are you going to survive? Like, I mean, it's like they've taken that away from everybody. You have to be careful of every little tiny thing. I mean, it's out of control. You just can't even say anything. I mean, there's always that one nurse on the unit that's got to be a bitch like that. It's like, what do you care if I did say? I mean, it's not like y'all are dicking around all night. I mean, who cares if you something off for 2 seconds and send a pure. I thought y'all were going to tell me they were accusing you of drugs because of putting drops in your eyes. That's what I was waiting to hear.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's just like, sorry I have a personality, It's like, sorry that I'm trying to, just be myself at work, not a robot that's in and out of these rooms,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I mean, I've had so much catty stuff. You have no idea. I could go on and on. I actually met my husband while at work as a nurse. He's an OBGYN. Okay, so you can imagine the gossiping that began. Then when an L&D nurse starts dating an eligible OBGYN. I was called into the office every other day being accused of things that I was not doing. At one point, they called me in and said that I was seen licking his fingers at the nurse's station. I said, do you know where his fingers go when he's at work? Okay. Do you think that I would actually lick his fingers? Okay. And I said, and if I wanted to, I could do that after work. I don't need to do that here. It got to the point that it was so bad that I said, unless you have a nurse brought in here, not just hearsay, that can confront me, or you have a recorded video of something, I do not want to be brought into this damn office one more time. I said, because you are calling me in on catty gossip, and it's ridiculous. It goes back to jealousy and nitpicking and micromanaging and all this hoopla. It was like, I had to be scared to even say hi to him at work, because then it was seen that I was goofing off and I wasn't doing my job, like.
Even the unit that I worked at for L&D, nurse on nights got reported for burping. So another nurse reported to the manager that this nurse is burping in a nurse's station. Like, come on, you must not really. You just must not like her.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
God forbid you fart and blame it on the patient. That's so wild.
Seriously, like, I mean, maybe she couldn't help it. Who cares? It's freaking crazy. We used to be able to pull pranks on each other. We'd freaking bring like those fart machines, like, the ones that you could have in your hand that make the noises, and we'd wait till somebody sat down and then like hit it like, and we used to be able to do that and have fun. Could you imagine doing that now? Oh my God, somebody would be offended, or you'd get in trouble, or who knows?
Yeah, and then management comes and says, "Hey, we got to be more of a cohesive unit." And so you can't even smile at somebody because they might take that smile as a frown, and you might get in trouble for it. Like, how are you supposed to?
You should have tubed everybody up here with.
Yeah,
should have sent it to every department, and then that would have been fair, right? Then maybe they would have been okay with it.
Yeah, it's wild. And like if you can't be yourself on the unit, like, you're never gonna be able to bond with somebody, because then we're all just slaving away like a bunch of robots. Like, there's no atmosphere on the unit, and you could tell when there's no atmosphere on the unit because everything's just like stale and stagnant.
Yeah,
and then,
everybody's quiet.
Right.
I hate that. I used to get floated to some of those floors, and I was just like, this is awful. Like, the clock didn't move. I was like, wait, is it still 11? Like, I'd be like, what is going on here? But yeah, same thing. Either that or they're afraid to get in trouble for talking at the nurses' station.
And it's not like their numbers are good anyways, because these nurses are scared to go above and beyond, because they're gonna try and go above and beyond. Somebody might look at it wrong and they'll get in trouble for doing extra. It's just like you lose like any kind of want or urge to do anything extra, and you
As a nurse,
yeah, and it affects their numbers. And no shit, your numbers are poor. And I know you've been trying to get them up, but you know, giving these nurses a higher workload and not giving them the ability to express themselves, that's not going to help anybody. And then you're stuck in this shitty unit of this vicious circle of poor numbers and high turnover, is because your unit politics suck. And it's how it is like a lot of places.
What, have you looked at the call list, or have you signed up for extra? And you're like, no, I ain't looking at that shit. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to be here one more minute than I have to. You know, I mean, unless because that will take its toll on you too. You try to start doing extra and bonuses, and then you start really frying yourself. You know, it's like it takes a toll on your mental health, your physical health. It's just, I'm like, I can barely even breathe when I'm here. You think I want to come in more?
Right, the money's not worth it. The money's not worth it. Maybe if they paid me like 10x, but getting like time and a half or 2 times is not even worth my time, because I feel like shit the rest of the week.
Yeah, exactly. And you're recovering the few days you do have off. You're exhausted, and you feel whooped. And it's just like, that's the other thing. The pay that they're handing out to nurses hourly. I mean, unless I know travel nurses are making decent right now, but to be a staff nurse, it's just crap. For the amount of stuff you have to do, it's crap. Leaving my job, I was a PRN nurse in the end for the last few years, and working part-time. And as a nurse, having 21 years experience, I was only making $28 an hour. That's it. 28. And that's at being PRN, where I have no benefits. So your pay should have actually exponentially gone up, is how it used to be. They have not adjusted anybody's rates as a PRN nurse in years. The only reason I took that small amount is because I didn't want somebody dictating my schedule. So I had the ability to do it because I ended up, getting married to my husband, and I luckily was blessed that I could do that. But there's nurses that can't take a pay cut like that. They just can't. And even at that, they're busting their butt as a floor nurse working full time, and their pay doesn't equate to what they should be making. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's not like I don't want to dog anyone else's job, but I mean, this is a highly thinking job. It's people's lives. I mean, you could kill somebody. I mean, we're not even being compensated for it. Like, it's freaking crazy. It's just nuts. I don't know what's going to happen here with nursing, but I feel like something big. I mean, it's obviously getting worse because nurses are leaving. But I just feel like this is going to take a big turn, and something's going to have to be a big wake up call before it actually starts getting better,
That's some innovation.
Yeah.
So after 21 years of nursing, for maybe a new grad that's listening, or for somebody that's in nursing school or just beginning of nursing, what are some advice or tips that you could give them that you wish you knew when you first started off?
I get asked that a lot, actually. That's a good question. I would say, first of all, I think as a new nurse, you're very easily intimidated because you're the new one on the unit. You're not confident in your skills yet, and you just kind of feel like you have to toe the line. But I would say, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to say, like, hey, I'm not comfortable doing this yet on my own, or no, I'm not ready to come off of orientation because I don't, feel like I've quite got it yet. Like, or that whole sink or swim mentality. Like, if, oh, you're in a 6-month orientation. Oh, well, it's been 3 weeks and we're short staffed. Here you go. Fly, little bird, fly. I think that nurses need to know that they can have a voice and they need to speak up, and they need to say, no, I'm not ready for this. I can't. And that's okay to say that, because what it all boils down to in the end, it's your license on the line. It's nobody else's. And you have to take care of yourself. Even though somebody claims they're going to have your back, if you screw up and you do something to a patient, it's you that's going to get in trouble, not the charge nurse that claims you can ask her a question. No, you're the one that's ultimately going to be held responsible. So just don't take anybody's shit is the first thing I would say, and be confident in yourself. And then secondly, I would say is don't feel like if you do, because right now, like we've been talking about, bedside nursing is tough. If you go into it and you find like you're miserable and it's awful, there are other things you can do, at least during these trying years that we're having right now. Obviously the hospital's the best way you're going to gain, I would say, your core knowledge. But if you're feeling like you just can't hack it or it's not right for you, it's not that you need to get out of nursing. It may just be that you need to get out of bedside nursing temporarily. But there's insurance companies. You can call Cigna. A lot of times they have people making wellness checkups, nurses. There's tons of other outside nursing type jobs that you can try to find, So I would just say hang in there and find somebody that's going to have your back, because or you have to have your own back, because otherwise you're going to get eaten alive. I know that sounds horrible, but that's the best way I can describe it.
It's the truth.
Yeah. So what made you kind of just, I could say, finally leave bedside and turn to like doing more of social media stuff? That was what you're doing now.
Well, okay. What finalized it? It's not like there was some big something that happened at work or something. No. I mean, I will say, during COVID and all that, there was less patients coming in for outpatient testing because they were trying to minimize, what I'm saying? Like maybe they could do it at the doctor's office or something. So my census had gone down quite a bit. So it was, I would go in, and my job was a 45-minute drive. So it was getting to the point that I would go in, and if there wasn't enough for me to do, they would turn around and send me back home right away. So it wasn't making sense anymore financially. It's like, why am I driving 45 minutes to work 2 hours and then get sent home? Do you see what I'm saying? Or the other option was get floated to a unit that I've never worked and I would feel uncomfortable in, because I mean, I've been doing outpatient testing for several years now, and then you're going to float me to some ICU floor or something. So it just didn't make sense anymore. And I, like I was saying, luckily monetarily was getting to the point with social media that it was taking off. So it was just good timing for me. And I just decided that it had been a long time coming. I wanted to be able to be more free and be more vocal, I guess, and kind of talk about nursing like real deal, like what's really going on, and not feel intimidated anymore, not feel like I had to hold back. So, and I like people to be able to message me on Facebook and write me something horrible that's happening to them, and then I can share it anonymously for these people. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like I've become like this liaison between, I can't post this on social media, but I have somebody that can post this, and then I can see what other nurses think about this. Like, they'll go through their whole scenario, and you're reading this like, good God, that's awful. But it's like, how can they post that and find out if other people are going through this? Because they'll get in trouble. So it's like I've in some aspects become like this middle person, and I'm glad to do it, because I don't have somebody that's gonna yell at me. I don't have some administration down my throat. So it kind of puts me in a pretty cool position, I'd say.
Yeah, you're like a voice for nurses. It's one of those things, like, I could see you as like always wanting to voice your opinion and give nursing the chance to voice the nursing opinion. I feel like this is like perfect for you to now do it, because technically you're not obligated to any management, any hospitals. You don't have anybody that you have to think about, hey, how are they going to feel about it? What are they going to do if I post this? You're like the liaison for nurses, that you can post like the truth, like almost like the insider of it, basically.
I know you guys may have seen my TikToks, and that's where I do short, funny videos. But my Facebook page is my biggest following, and that's where I share a lot of these anonymous posts. I mean, obviously, I share my TikToks and I share memes and stuff like that. But a lot of it sometimes will be, some serious stuff too. or I'll go live sometimes and just talk to these nurses on online, like real deal stuff of the stuff that I'm hearing, or just read letters out loud from nurses anonymously. And it's like people see themselves in what these other people are saying, and they feel like they're not alone. They feel like it's not just me that's going through this, like everybody is, and it's crazy. But so going back to your question, all of that combined led me to, it was just the right time to leave bedside nursing and kind of jump into this 100% versus 80%, if that makes sense, and instead of like having to make safe video jokes, like about, just silly stuff about like, oh, your nurse's knees hurt, or something. I can make fun of administration, and that is the most freeing thing. Look at the smile on my face.
For 20 years.
Anytime I do a making fun of administration, I have some good ones where I'm like the nurse manager that's going to your funeral, Christine, the nurse manager, and she's trying to wake up your corpse, like she's doing CPR in your ass to get you back into work. Like, this is inconvenient. Like, seriously, you need to come on back. But I mean, anybody else would be scared to do something like that because they would not find that funny at their job, even though it is. Right?
Yeah. So, what is the future for you? What are your goals as far as maybe social media or as your personal brand as Jessica Sites?
I would say my goal is more, I've started doing public speaking, like for some, I don't want to say public speaking, but comedy type skits for, I did one for Michigan Nurses Association recently. Doing more things that are live. I would love, some bigger nursing names do like comedy things and go on tour. I would love to eventually do that. But I just kind of just want to be there for other nurses and be able to, like I was saying, not toe the line and just kind of grow, a brand. A lot of people ask me, well, what are you selling? And I'm like, I'm not selling any. I guess I'm selling my videos. Like, but a lot of people will try to get you in, like, with their videos, but then they're trying to sell you a course. Does that make sense? Or they're trying to sell you, like, I mean, I've had people tell me, they're like, you should like show people how to grow on social media. Like, that's your niche, that's your thing. And I'm like, I just want to make people laugh and get paid for the videos I post. and that's what I'm doing right now. And I love it. I mean, I sit here and I crack myself up in this room by myself sometimes. I'll film a TikTok and I'm literally laughing at myself. I'm like, if people are looking at me, they think I'm nuts right now. Like, but I mean, to get paid to do that is that's pretty freaking cool. I'm like, I just want to keep on doing it. As much as people, as long as they like it, I'll keep doing it, But ever comes to the day that they're like, your ass ain't funny no more, you're old, hang it up, then I'll stop and I won't do it. But in the meantime,
show goes on.
Yeah, that's so funny because you are given a nurse you are given a voice to nurses, and you are empowering them. Because I can because reflecting back on my like nursing career, there's been so many times where I wanted to like share something with somebody or tell somebody about something to get their opinion, except I don't want to do it because, like, hey, they're my coworkers, they work with me, they're tight with management. I don't really want to bring up any problems because, hey, they're best friends with the manager. If I complain about some shit, guess what? They're gonna know, and then I'm the bad guy. And I'm glad you offer that space, on your show, on your videos, where nurses can anonymously go and share this information with you, and you share with everybody else, because they're not the only ones that are experiencing this. There's a lot of nurses that are experiencing these management issues, these burnout issues, where they're getting food instead of proper ratios, and management just kind of tucks things under the rug, and then they tuck under the rug, and they're still blaming nurses. So there's a lot of us, and we're all unique, but we're still lacking that voice. So the more people that we have out there like you that are willing to take that initiative and be the voice for us, it makes nursing a lot easier and a lot better to go into.
Yeah, I'm trying. There's a lot of great organizations of people, like I don't know if you've heard of the Last Pizza Party, but they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook, and I've started kind of combining with them a bit. But it's a group of nurses that, I mean, they're still nurses, but they're really into trying to get policy, like in law changes for nurses, like appropriate staffing ratios and things like that. And these women are so brave and so knowledgeable. And I'm trying to more on the legal side of nursing, and exactly. There's not many unions here in Florida. Like I'm just trying to kind of take in all of that too and learn so that I can help be more of a voice and empower people as to I don't know, like what states are better. There's some states that are better than others that I think from what I'm understanding, California recently had passed some safer patient ratios, nurse patient ratios. So there are some changes starting to occur. So the more I learn about it, the more I feel like I can be a voice and also kind of help guide people a little bit in the right way. But if anybody, I mean, and this is me just promoting the Last Pizza Party because I think they're amazing. If anybody is like, where do I get guidance on that kind of stuff? They talk about strikes and unions and what hospitals are on strike right now and what's going on, and what the ANA is saying, and it's just all kinds of stuff like that. Is they're a very educational resource. So I'm trying to learn so that I'm not just the comedian, but I also kind of am trying to take in that background as well. So
Yeah, since we're shitting on management, I'm gonna shit on them one more time before we go. I'm not sure if you knew, but there's one hospital in Illinois that they are losing a lot of nurses to travel nursing. So what they're saying is that they are not going to allow for them to be put on the resume. So they're not going to be able to like
give a reference.
So they're not allowing them to find a new job because they want them to stay with that hospital. So they're saying that we're not going to be able to give you a reference on your resume. So no one could call us for reference. So people that have been there for 10, 14, 15 years that only work there, technically no one wants to give them a reference, so they can't go anywhere else to work.
that's awful.
Which is so messed up, yeah, because they're losing these nurses to travel nursing. So
How is that even legal?
that's what we're saying. Like, how is that legal? How can you not allow you as my employer be my reference, which is totally messed up. And instead of trying to fix the problem, like, hey, maybe we should offer these nurses better ratios, higher pay. Their solution is we're gonna trap them into this job.
Yep.
Which is so fucked.
Looking at the hospital's best interest.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, you don't think healthcare's a business?
I'm
It's a
tempted
business.
to pass that along to somebody that I know with Last Pizza Party and see if they've heard about that. That's freaking.
You should.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm curious to hear. Her name is the nurse Erica, and she is like the one that's one of the biggest ones with the Last Pizza Party, and she's so freaking smart. It's crazy. She knows like all this stuff. She probably already knows about it, honestly, but very curious to mention it to her. But that I have no words for that. That's just messed up. I thought that went hand in hand, that you have to say this person was here and they were a good employee or not, or I don't know. That's awful.
Yeah, even if it's like a threat, like even if it's not something that's like in paper, but if it's a threat, if you're threatening me with that, like what? Like how like monetary driven are you in this hospital if you're threatening me with something like that where I can't independently leave? Like it's just like wild.
It's taking the human being out of nursing and for what it is, and
That's bullying. That's bullying is what it is. It's a scare tactic. And, I wonder if they're just trying to call their bluff. I mean, I would say as one of those nurses, I'd be like, fuck off. I'm going to apply somewhere else anyways. And I'm going to tell these people my employer is saying that they will not give me a reference. So, maybe they'll consider that. You see what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that's just so freaking stupid.
It's so messed up.
and that's what's interesting
Like,
of
that's
where
all I can say. That's just so stupid.
Yeah, right. Like you're lost for words. You like don't even know what to say.
I'm like, what?
And that's what's interesting about where the future of nursing is going to be, because the pandemic exposed everything. We know that hospitals have money. They're not paying us. You can't just satisfy us with food. I think that phase is already over after last year. So it's like,
We all have heartburn from pizza. We're done. We're up to here with the tomato sauce. Like seriously, it's no more. I mean, can they at least cater something good, like Charlie's Steakhouse or something? Like, I mean, do they have pizza?
Right, every time. Yeah, and it gets cold by the time you get on night shift, anyways.
Night shift gets crumbs. They don't. Night shift gets some crust, some leftover crust or something, or the pizza everybody sneezed on all day. I don't. Poor night shift. Seriously, they always get the leftovers. I feel bad for them.
So funny.
Jessica, where can people find you?
Anywhere. Everything is Nurse Jessica Sites. So SITES. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. If you are looking for that connection with a lot more of these anonymous posts, that would be my Facebook business page, Nurse Jessica Sites. But I do share. I would love for everybody to follow me everywhere. That'd be great. But I do share a lot of these my TikToks on these other sites as well. So a lot of times I'll upload them to my Facebook page, or because everybody's doing short videos now. Like every site is trying to get people to do like what TikTok is doing. So even YouTube, sometimes I've got some of my TikToks on there too. So, but anywhere would be great. But like I was saying, my biggest following is Facebook. But I'm trying to grow everywhere. So yep, all Nurse Jessica Sites. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. It's been a blast.
Thank you. You guys rock. It was a lot of fun.